Thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2024. Welcome back from spring break. And this is our advisory meeting that we will call to order at 7:06 p.m. And at this time, I want to again just thank you all for being here. And again, as I stated before we came and started the meeting, I want to thank our board liaisons, Mr. Jonathan Briggs and Pamela Boozer Struthers, for being here with us and truly supporting us in the work that we are doing here. And so at this time, I want to also thank all of my peer partners here, the community members. I want to thank Ms. Barton for making sure that administratively we're together, we're on task, we are here, and we are ready to get started. And so at this time, we're going to move into the item 1.3, the adoption of the April 3rd, 2024 meeting agenda.
Point
No,
of order.
I take that back. I apologize. We need to move into roll call. Mr. Carter Ross. I got excited. I'm just trying to get the agenda.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair Milhouse.
Do roll call, please.
All right. Beginning with Dr. Parasadon,
Here.
Reverend Dr. Orlando Jermaine Bego,
Present.
Ms. Rebecca Brown,
Present.
Mr. Will Epps,
Present.
Dr. Sheila Jackson,
Present.
Ms. Carletta Lundy, Chair Dolores Milhouse,
Present.
T. Carter Ross is present, Vice Chair Teresa Smith,
Present.
Ms. Kara Walker, Mrs. Robin Welsh,
Present.
Ms. Latanza Wilson.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Exciting. Thank you very much. And you all excuse me for being so eager to get through this agenda. Next, we'll go into the adoption of the April 3rd, 2024 meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to accept the meeting agenda for tonight?
So moved.
The second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? So at this time, we have adopted the April 3rd, 2024 meeting agenda. We will now move into the approval of the meeting minutes from the March 6th, 2024 meeting. Can I have a motion? I need a motion for someone.
moved.
So moved. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. So someone to second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the approval of the meeting minutes from the March 6th, 2024 meeting? Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? There are no opposing, so we can move forward with the adoption of the approval of the minutes for March 6th, 2024. My report is going to be very brief. I want to thank you all, one, for participating in the superintendent's discussion as he shared with us the transportation review that they were sharing with the board. And I want to make sure that we all are aware that there was a survey to be completed. They were asking for any other feedback we may have, but to be clear, that was a report that was created to present to the board. They were presenting and sharing those findings with us. It was not anything different that they shared with the board, but it was the same report. And so I really thank you all for your feedback. I thank you all for being present. And let's make sure that we provide additional feedback. We do know that there's a lot of discussion right now out in the community about some of the communication that has come out. I am hoping that we are working as a community to be patient, right, with what's happening, and really support the work that we know our board will definitely do to ensure that administration rolls out a plan based on the needs for the entire PGCPS community, and that we are working together to kind of support some of the growing pains that we may have to go through with the transition. So let's be open, let's be patient, but be present as much as possible when the superintendent hosts the full meetings to share information with us, as well as to provide the feedback when they ask for it. So I really appreciate you all doing that. I also had spoken with my district member, Dr. Harris, as he is putting on a couple of different events. We actually held a parent leadership event for District 7 right before spring break, and it was amazing. He pulled together all of the parent leader groups from each of the schools, as well as a representative if they did not have a parent leader group. And as we're working to kind of flush out the template and hoping to share with some of the other board members, it was just a great way to bring together the community members. And that's where I see us really doing a lot of work as parent and community advisors. Dr. Jackson did come out to the event, as well as she spoke. And I did ask him to reach out to the men of PCAC, because he is also putting on an event for the men of Prince George's County Public Schools. And so for me, it's very important, as various things come my way, our way, that if we're not the individual who we see best fit, that not only are we looking at the PCAC as a whole, but looking at the individuals in our prospective districts, as well as the county as a whole, that may also be helpful and beneficial. There was another event that I know our Vice Chair, Ms. Smith, had volunteered with the state superintendent, not the state superintendent, but the state's attorney, Miss Aisha Braveboy. They had an event called K-Pasta. And so I was not able to, be available for it. And so, we were still able to be present. I'm not sure if Miss Smith was able to really present or do much there, but we had a presence there. And so I do appreciate just the time that we all have put into a lot of various things. But be mindful that if we can't do something, identify another individual, because now after our parent leader event in District 7, I have a roster of parents, right? So if my board member is saying, hey, I want you to come out to speak about engagement, I'm like, wait a minute, we have a whole roster of other parent leaders in the district that we can also pull from and put front and center, because the idea is to be in a position to build capacity. And so I do appreciate, those opportunities, and we are moving forward. I know I still have to get with the individuals for the policy committee. Thank you for being patient with me. I will be sending something out tomorrow. And that at this time is the end of the report that I have for the chair. Any questions, comments? No, I don't see any lights, hands. At this time, we're going to move into the report of the superintendent designees. Dr. Jackson, would you like to go first?
Thank you. If I was struggling to unmute myself, good evening, everyone. I I did not take a spring break last week, and I really feel like I need one right now because it was pretty intense. But we got a lot done. We have a lot going on, and I'm just very happy to share some updates with everyone. And I will give it to Ms. Barton to also share with everyone. Um, Last month, we had a wonderful opportunity, and some of our PCAC members were there, where our department hosted a business partnerships breakfast at the Newton White Mansion, and it was well attended and just so uplifting to see so many of our partners there. I think we had about 90 of the 120 that we have. And so they had an opportunity to not only be recognized, but also to network with one another. And we want to continue to build those supports that we have in Prince George's County to strengthen our school system. Thank you, Mrs. Millhouse. I think Reverend Dr. Bago was there. And I apologize if I missed someone
Miss
who was
Smith.
there.
Miss
Miss
Smith.
Smith? Oh gosh, Miss Smith, I apologize. Thank you so much for being there. It was a delight to see our PCAC members there. Um, Upcoming in the school system that our department is helping to take point on. Mrs. Millhouse spoke about the transportation changes that are coming. And if you go to our school system website, you see different graphics popping up. What will be popping up in a few days will be a list of the community sessions that are going to be held. We're doing 9 board district community information sessions, and they will be open to the public. It will be an opportunity, like Mrs. Millhouse said, for transportation and the formative auditors to be there to talk about the plan, talk about what is going to happen starting in August. And it's not a negotiation. It's not open to discussion. It's just going to be an announcement about this is what's going to happen, and what we'll need, like Mrs. Millhouse said, from everyone to make sure that we can go forward. This audit has been 20 years being done over and over again. This is the first time in 20 years that we as a district are acting on what the audits have told us for 2 decades that need to happen. And so our new superintendent said, guys, we got to pull the Band-Aid off and go ahead. And I think actually Mrs. Boozer Struther may have said that at a board meeting. We know what we need to do. We need to do it. So I'm inviting each of you. That schedule of meetings will be announced this week, and there will be one in every board district. And we were fortunate that our board members let us know what dates. We came up with a list of dates. They let us know when they want it to happen in their district. And so that will be published very soon. The next big thing that we have happening, that our office is taking lead on helping to put together, we have our inaugural Pride Summit for students, families, and their allies. And it's going to be a virtual session on Saturday, May 4th. And that announcement will be coming out soon with the links to how to get into the sessions. We have a student link because our student link, we want to be all authenticated. And we have an open link for parents and community members to participate as well. And we're looking forward to that. We have a lot of support from our board, from our county executives office, from our state delegates, from our county council members who just are happy that Prince George's County is actually taking the lead on making sure that we're supporting students who've identified and who need to be supported in our community. Coming up also is our back to school drive and dash is already scheduled for August 17th. That'll be a Saturday at Oxon Hill, Charles Herbert Flowers, and at High Point High School, where we have partners in the system, in the county and in the district that have that are going to be I can't talk, I'm sorry, giving away school supplies and book bags to our students. And so we're excited about that, that again, we have community partners willing to support our students to make sure they can come back to school with the supplies that they need to be successful. So that's August 17th. Mark your calendar. Let folks know, be there early to be able to pick up school supplies and backpacks. Board Member Harris has a plan, and I think Mrs. Milhouse spoke about it, to have a father male engagement event. And we were trying to pull it off for May 18th and decided today that we're going to push it to August because we really want to make sure that we spend time making sure that this is a meaningful event, not something that's put together at the last minute. We want it to be have a keynote speaker and have sessions. We have a number of organizations that are volunteering to come and support this kind of initiative. Our staff member, Mr. Ortiz, has been promoting father engagement for at least the 7 years he's been on my staff, but it's important that we pay attention to making sure that we make our fathers and our male figures feel invited and feel like we want them to be a part of the educational process. So that will be announced. It will probably be August 24th or August 31st. He wants it to be a welcome back to school event. You all know how we get more attendance at the beginning of the school year than we get in May. And so that's the other part of moving it to the beginning of the year. And then I will share in writing the Family Institute sessions coming up. April 9th will be one about math, what every parent should know. And that's at all grade levels. What are some of the key strategies that our students should be learning at different ages? April 16th, Scott Showalter will be presenting on violence prevention. As we all know, since we came back from the pandemic, the numbers of fights and just all kinds of contention among students has increased. And so he wants to talk with parents about what can we be doing at home with our children to make sure that they get reconnected in a way that's positive, and that they're learning the coping strategies to keep them from devolving into violence. April 30th, it will be PCAC, Mrs. Milhouse and the team. Did you want to talk about it, Ms. Milhouse? What's happening on April 30th?
So as I'm leaning in to say, oh my gosh, I'm being recorded, I forgot. But I'm prepared, right, Carter? We're prepared, right? We are already prepared, so I knew it was April. So no, I don't want to speak on it. I would like you to speak on it, but I know it's in April talking about engagement.
It's going to be outstanding. Mrs. Milhouse and Mr. Carter Ross are going to be talking about the administrative procedures that are in place that promote parent-family engagement in Prince George's County Public Schools. And so we are looking forward to that because that's something that's not talked about enough, that parents know that it's codified. It's part of what we do in schools, in this school system, to make sure that parents and families feel welcome and that there are structures in place to facilitate that happening. So that's going to be on April 30th by our own PCAC. May 7th, it will be a session on making transitions smooth. We call them smooth moves when children move from elementary to middle to high school to college. What can we as parents do to make sure that our children are prepared effectively? And then our last one will be on May 15th, and it will be an examination of restorative practices. What can parents do to make sure that their students and that they are practicing what we call restorative practices? How do we gracefully support someone who might make a mistake? Do we give them opportunities to restore, whether it's their dignity, whether it is, if they've offended someone? And I'll just share with you all, those are the conversations I have with parents who have fallen in violation of our code of conduct. We do have parents and families who've been banned from participating in the school system, but they have to come and have training. And I don't call it training. I call it restorative conversations. I'll share with you all, one of our parents said to me, training is what you do to dogs. So don't talk to me about that. And I had to apologize. I'm like, you're absolutely correct, sir. We will not call our workshops training. It's conversations. And that's what we want, restorative conversations. And then everything else, I do want to let you know that the Fresh Cuts Initiative by the superintendent that was supposed to start in March has been pushed back to August. And part of that was to allow us to focus on the big announcement about the transportation changes. And he didn't want anything to distract from that. And so he also is continuing to visit faith-based partners and the education ministries and visiting homeowners associations and civic associations. So if any of you are connected to any of those organizations and you would like for the superintendent to visit, please don't hesitate to call his office and give him a date, and a location. And he wants to make sure that he's connecting with our full community. So that's all of my report for tonight, and I will turn it right over to Ms. Welsh. Oh, any questions? I'm sorry. Any
Yes,
questions?
I do. I actually have a question. I can't remember the date. It may be a May date for one of the workshops where you are speaking about the pathway to high school, I think.
Yes, May 7th.
May 7th.
Yes.
Do you have a student that's presenting?
See, I don't have the names of the presenters, so I'm not sure.
And I asked that question because I definitely would like to hear it also from a student's perspective about what are some of the things that they believe, right, that they see, right, is necessary to, make that jump from middle school to high school, right? And always saying it from their perspective is very different from us telling them what they need to do and how they need to be prepared, but they're actually living the life. In my experience, back in the 80s and the 90s is not the same experience in 2024.
Absolutely. I will reach out to the coordinator of that session and suggest to them that we have a student voice in that as well.
Yeah, and I just say that in so many ways because I and I'm doing this with my own children. And when you mentioned the point about training, that I have to see them more as an individual, right? They're a person with experiences and they have some thoughts and some things that they can provide and share. And even when we're talking about career and college ready, I just would really like to hear the voice of students who have matriculated on to college and are coming back to say, hey, Prince George's County Public School System, they did a great job, right, in getting us prepared for that next journey. Or here's some things that we may think about doing because the landscape is changing somewhat, right, on the collegiate level. And what we think that we are doing as it relates to the amount of work, the type of work, we may need to have a shift somewhere. So to get the voice of the individuals who are actually, in it, as well as maybe some collegiate instructors that can come back, right, and kind of talk and help bridge the gap for us in things that we should be doing. I just, I'm always trying to really figure out how do we elevate more of the voice of the people who are actually having the experience versus, kind of telling it from where we had experienced it 20 years ago, or I should just say 2 decades ago, right?
Thank you. Point well taken. I will definitely share that back with the coordinator.
Thank you. Thank you. And then the one other thing that I met a woman, Miss Dana Coles, and I actually had done some work with her, with you, Dr. Jackson, the community conferencing program, Prince George's.
Community conferencing and mediation program.
Yes. And so my question, after speaking with her, what happens once you become a partner, right? How is it then marketed to the wider community, about hey, here is a entity that's here to provide XYZ service, because they have a really good restorative practice service for free, right? That won't inundate your office, but really helps build capacity. So what happens once the partner, comes into play, does all the check off, then what happens, right? Where do they go? How is it marketed to the greater, community?
So we actually have a database that we share with all schools, the school principals and their leadership team, and we talk about what those services do. And then leave it up to them to reach out to those partners, or the partners sometimes choose schools that they want to adopt and they go directly to those schools. But we want to make sure that everybody working in Prince George's County in schools knows that we have XYZ partners, and this is what they do, and this is what they offer. But they have to be invited, because I don't want any partner going knocking on the door and sometimes getting rebuffed. We want the schools to form effective partnerships with them. And so, as you heard at the breakfast, we have partners like a Delta Sigma Theta or a Alpha Kappa Alpha, in the male fraternities that provide $90,000 worth of scholarships every year, because they actively work, with school and school staff and with our central office staff to find out where are the needs. So, but it's not about just building a database and sitting on it. It's actively pushing that database out to the schools so that they know that these services are available for them to tap into.
Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit, maybe offline with you about some things after, but I see Ms. Smith's hand is up and Dr. Bagel's hand is up. Ms. Smith, Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you. So, Dr. Jackson, I wanted to go back to your first agenda item about the transportation discussion sessions that will be held. The first question is, will they be virtual or in person, or is it a combination of the two?
They are going to be in person. And the decision that was made, I think the superintendent and transportation, is that they really want them to be in person. However, the one where the auditor will be present will be live streamed and recorded, so that if anybody cannot come out physically, I can't talk, I'm sorry tonight, y'all. They can't come, they can have access to the information.
Awesome. And I know you guys are the experts, but I will just say, just from being engaged on social media, there are strong opinions on both sides of whatever the decisions are. So I would just say that communication, I think, is going to be key. You know, what the messaging is, what the why is, so that folks really understand. I think for those that have strong feelings against it, they just don't understand, why we're moving in this way. So I just want to say communication is definitely going to be key.
Thank you so much for that. I've seen the websites, I've seen the comments, and I'm like, we got to do a good job. And that's why I know some people complain that one week, the week of the 15th, I have something every night, because I need the people who are running this change to be in front of those communities and talking with people and letting people know this is the plan, this is how it's going to work, this is how it's going to impact you. And because it's going to happen. We're not kicking the can down the road anymore. And I did look at the varying opinions, and I just want everybody to know we've been taking comments from the public for almost 20 years. And this audit put a cap on it and said, look, this is what you have to do because of what we know, from our own data, what we've seen, what parents have told us over the decades. And it's time to pull the trigger and make this happen. And so, but I see the varying opinions. People had ample opportunity to give input, but it's no longer an input or negotiation. This is a decision. that's been made. Yeah.
And then just one other thing, I wanted to follow up. Chair Millhouse kind of touched on it about the restorative services.
Yeah.
The piece that I really wanted to know about, just as a parent, how do we tap into that? Because I too had conversations with Ms. Coles at your event, and I had no clue that this service was out there and that it was free. And I'm sure a lot of parents, when there are situations, with their local schools, this is a good resource that they could tap into, and we just don't know about it. So I just wanted to also ask, I understand that you disseminate the information to the schools, but how do the parents know that this is a resource that may be available to them?
So I'll be honest with you, it's posted on our website, but you all know how hard it is to find anything on our website. And so what I always like to say to parents when they're struggling to find things, please don't hesitate to call, and we can connect them with the right place to get that information. That organization has been our partner for almost 20 years. They used to be called KeyBridge, and they have come to communities and run parent meetings and resolve disputes and just all kinds of things, and they are free. But yeah, and anyone can tap into that. So yeah, we're working on that. How do we make our website easier to manage or to manipulate? Because you shouldn't have to click more than twice to find something you're looking for. So we continue to work on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then Reverend Dr. Bago.
Yes, Dr. Jackson, I just wanted to piggyback on you mentioned about the partnership with community-based organizations. And just in some general conversations that I've had with nonprofits, they've spoke of the challenges of providing their service and resource to schools. And I know at the breakfast last month, there was a PowerPoint presentation in our folder that actually walks organizations through what they need to do. My question is there any recorded webinar video that organizations can view to help them navigate that process?
There is, and I will reach out to Mr. Wilson to make sure that I get that link available. And again, we need to make that more visible as well on our website so that people don't feel that, we want to do this, but we don't know how. But they can always call me or our Office of Business Partnerships. That's Mr. Ronald Wilson. And definitely we can make sure that they get access to that link.
Great. And I'm not sure if the school system takes advantage of YouTube.
We do. We have a robust YouTube account, but I think you're saying I need to put that up there. So thank you.
I mean, robust in a way that we are seeing a lot of the meetings that are held there and in videos that are pre-made, but I don't know if they're adding like Dr. Bago was saying, and like you also are saying, I think it may be an underutilized resource.
Okay.
I
will give that right back to comms.
Right. We don't have to dig, right?
Yeah.
So the YouTube page, it's kind of there. You just kind of search for the videos that you would like. Dr. Adon.
Yes, just to Dr. Jackson. Let me know how I can help with the Male Initiative or the Dad's Initiative if you need my support.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. And all of the gentlemen on this call, you definitely will all be included in that.
Yes, I gave
so
Dr.
much.
Harris everyone's email and contact information. So Dr. Harris is actually leading the event, Dr. Kenneth Harris. And so he will make sure that you all are in the mix, front and center, and making sure that your voices are there and a part of the advising component.
Because Mr. Ross and I and another individual had a meeting with him, was a week and a half ago, where he asked for some insight regarding the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes.
Oh, no, I was
We
saying,
need to make sure that all of you are included in that.
Yes. Dr. Don.
no, I was just saying that I missed that meeting, but yes, I was invited. I'm aware.
No, we got you though. You are in there.
Yeah.
And I will say this, we can't make it to everything, but you will be made sure that you're kept abreast, have the meeting minutes. And I will say this about Dr. Harris, he is very meticulous about notes and stuff like that. So it's been a blessing to be able to work with him. Because he really keeps me online and say, hey, can you help do this? And I'm like, put it on the calendar. So he will definitely be following up with you all, because I was like, hey, I think sometimes people forget that we're here in this advising capacity. And when they're doing various initiatives, such as reaching out to faith-based. Did anybody talk to Dr. Vago? He's here. And so do know if your phone rings or email comes through, that is because I am saying, hey, don't forget about PCAC and they're representing such and such district or specialty area. And if they don't have a person, I'm quite sure that they can connect you to someone else. And so are there any other questions for Dr. Jackson? Dr. Jackson, as always, thank you for the wealth of information. Ms. Welsh, you have the floor.
So I have to ask for one exception or whatever. My horse, I own a horse who's a deer I love dearly, and he has an eye problem and he's been shipped to Virginia, and the eye doctor is supposed to be calling me any minute. So if the call comes in, I've been waiting all day to get the results of the examination. If I get the call, can I stop in the middle and then come back to the rest of the conversation? I'm so sorry, but
Ms. Welsh, you don't have to do that. Absolutely.
okay, I'll
We
start
appreciate
talking, and then if I have to stop, I will stop, and then I'll come back in at another place in the agenda. I really do apologize for this. When it's my turn to talk, and then they're supposed to call. So if they do call, I just wanted to let you know.
No worries. And if you don't get to finish, you can, we can always just post something later to the group. No stress.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your understanding. First, I'd like to say that the legislative session is about to end. It's on Monday is the very last day of the session, and all the bills that have moved from the Senate to the House, they've done their moving, and we're just waiting. There's a few hearings coming up, but very, very little. They're really just sort of finalizing everything as we move as they move through the process. So then the bills will then go to the governor. The bills that make it through the session will go to the governor for his signature. And then we'll get to see the results of that legislative session, which hopefully I can bring back to you at the next meeting to share some of the bills that did make it through that process. As far as policies, I did want to let you know that we did at the March 21st meeting, 2 policies the board approved to go out for public comment. One is 0125, which is on non-discrimination. And another policy that's out right now for public comment is 2600, which is records and document management program. The other thing is at our meeting for our most recent policy and governance committee meeting, we did move forward so that the policy, student information, and education records will be going to the board at the April 25th meeting for them to make a recommendation for public comment. So that'll be coming near the very end of April, beginning of May, as well as policy 0101, educational equity, which will be coming up, which is the decision was made to send it to the board for public comment. And again, that will come up on the April 25th meeting, and it will sit out there through the end of April and the first week in May. So it's an opportunity for people to provide any public comment. And just to give you just insight into what's coming up at the next meeting, 2 policies that are going to be up for discussion will be policy 0116, which has to do with wellness, nutrition, and physical activity. And then policy 2801, which has to do with safety programs. And both of those, I think, are extremely important policies as it relates to the welfare of our students. So we'll be going through the process, but we welcome comments and input from the PCAC and anyone throughout the entire process. But just to give you a heads up, that's going to happen. And then I just saw your email related to grading. And interestingly enough, at the April 30th meeting, the grading and reporting for elementary and secondary policy is coming up for discussion. So we will be addressing that policy before the school year ends and going through that process. So it will be interesting in getting input.
Okay, so will that be at the Policy and Governance Committee meeting?
Yeah, on April 30th. We'll
Okay.
be discussing it then. I mean, I'm just gonna still respond to your email, but I'm just letting you know that we will be discussing that policy at the April 30th meeting.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
So, so those are the main big, I don't have exciting information like Dr. Jackson had, but I do have, but these are the policies we're moving forward, you know, pretty fast rate in terms of these policies. And so we, as you know, we welcome your input throughout the entire process because we think it's extremely important to have your input as we put these policies together.
No, thank you so much. And so I just have one, the question about when do you all begin to work on or discussing policies for review for next school year?
So we
What's the
will
timeline?
begin that process in May and finalize it in June. The superintendent is supposed to provide a list of policies that he would like to have addressed, and then the board, of course, can provide policies that, list policies they want. I will let you know that the policy committee did review the report that went to the Maryland State Department of Education. This was at the last meeting in terms of bullying, the bullying report that went. And so based on the information that was shared with us from the Student Services Department, the committee recommended that we put that policy, the one on bullying, harassment, and discrimination on the intimidation, on the list for next year to work on, to make some revisions to it based on the data that came through on this past year that went to Maryland State Department of Education.
Okay, all right. Thank
So
you.
it might be something that I'm just as a thought, something like in May even that you might want to bring up on the agenda in case there's other areas that people are interested in that I can certainly take back to the policy committee as they put their agenda together for the following year.
Okay, because there was a policy that was mentioned in the audit report, and I don't have it written down as it relates to the walkability. I don't.
I know which one you're talking about.
Okay.
I can.
Is that up for review? I mean, because they re-referenced it, but it's not been updated in a decade or so. So
I'll pull it and look at it.
okay. And so are there any questions? Thank you, Ms. Welsh. Any questions? And as always, Robin, your information is just as exciting.
Okay, well, thank you.
No, thank you. And so if there are no questions, what we will move into this time is discussion items, items 2.1 district community updates. If anyone has any community updates, I pretty much shared District 7 during our my report. And I know Vice Chair Smith for District 6, you had something for the general group that I have forgotten. So I want to turn it over to you real quick.
Sure. So PCAC has been contacted by the Violence Prevention Work Group. They're seeking one parent to be a participant in their monthly meetings, which will be held on a Tuesday. They have not defined which Tuesday of the month just yet. And I think that time frame may be an hour, but it's going to be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you guys are available, maybe people can alternate if they can't commit, to each month to being a participant, but they are looking for parent involvement with that particular work group. And then Chair Millhouse, did you want me to move into District 6 so I can hold off?
Yes, unless someone had any questions, I think we can do is, Ms. Barton will send this email to you. And then you can share it with the committee as a whole. Ms. Smith, you can go ahead into District 6.
All right. So with District 6, I reported out last month that District 6 was collaborating with District 7 to launch a safe passage pilot. That pilot is going to be starting soon on April 13th. They're going to have training for parents at Largo High School from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. They are looking for 300 volunteers who could be at different intersections for 6 different schools. I don't have the specific schools, but they would like them to be at those intersections to help the students get to their destination safely. And then just making sure that I caught it all. We talked about KPASA already. Yeah, I think that those were the 3 things that I wanted to mention to the group. Thank you.
And so for clarity, April 13th is the training, or is that the actual date for the safe passage event?
So it's the training. It's the first training date that they have mentioned to the public. Because they said first, I'm assuming that they're going to be other upcoming trainings if parents are not available on that date.
Okay, Ms. Barton.
Thank you. I've been working with board member Brandon Jackson about this initiative, and currently as we stand, the training starts on April 13th, and they plan to actually launch on April 15th, Monday, April 15th. And I know a few of the schools. I know it is Charles Herbert Flowers Central High School, Suitland High School, Andrew Jackson Academy, and I think there maybe 1 or 2 more, but I'm not really sure because I'm pulling from memory. But unless things have changed, they are actually supposed to start on April 15th.
Okay, thank you. And are you aware if are there other board members that are partnering with Mr. Jackson on this?
Currently, I don't know of any other board members, but I do know that County Council is involved. County Council member Crystal Oriata, Walla Blagay, and Jolene Ivy, they are partnering with Mr. Jackson for this initiative.
Oh, okay. Ms. Boozer Strother?
I just wanted to clarify that this is not a Board of Education initiative, nor did we speak about it as a board. It's an individual board member collaborative that is happening.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. And so Ms. Vice Chair Smith, and so how are people signing up? Like how is this?
So great question. There is a link which I can share with Ms. Burton where the parents can sign up. And I'm assuming, and I'm sorry, I don't have these level of details, but I'm assuming at this training session, additional details will be provided so that the community will know where they can go to be a participant. Okay,
thank you for sharing that. And so for clarity, this is not a PGCPS Board of Education event. This is something that the District 6 representative is teaming with the District 6 and District 7 council individuals, as well as the chair of the county council. So thank you for that. Are there any other district highlights anyone wants to share? Ms. Wilson.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to highlight that in District 2, our representative, Jonathan Briggs, did a fantastic job of holding a town hall during spring break where parents were able to attend. I was only able to drop in. I was out of state with my family for spring break, and we were at dinner at the time. So I tried to hurry up and jump in, and but I was able to hear a couple of different items where he was able to briefly kind of highlight the changes to the Bell schedule plan that was planning on coming down the line. And there was some discussion in reference to the changes in buses and its relation to the audit with the buses. He also went over his goals and accomplishments that he had set for himself to accomplish, and was also able to highlight information in reference to the 2023 PGCPS Climate Culture Survey and bullying related information as well. And he did follow up with those resources to those that were able to attend via email. And so they have that information, resources and information. Actually, from that, I actually had a school that has reached out and invited me to speak with them on tomorrow in reference to the Bell changes and bus schedules and things of that nature. So it has created some good relationship building and communication from that town hall meeting. So it was really well attended and a great thing for District 2.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate hearing that, because it's always important when the board members are also able to kind of share and bring to life some of the conversations that we may be having, right? And bring us into the conversation, since they are the ones who are also a part of the decision-making process. They are the ones who are really giving the green light to things. So are also the ones that are elevating our needs and desires as constituents. So thank you for sharing that as well. Are there any other reports for any other districts?
I can share about District 5 really quickly, if that's okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so I met with Dr. Miller for District 5. And there's a very cool initiative that she was talking about, and that's having a therapist, mental health therapist, available at every school during during school hours for 24/7 support. This is not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It's just a thought or a plan if you had a mental health provider at every school readily available, a virtual mental health provider or someone by phone for a student who's in crisis. That's something that we talked about. That would be great. We also talked about, she's doing a community update this month on April the 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. So we'll collaborate on that. And then we're also working on a forum to help parents know or help parents learn on how to identify a student that needs more support, especially for a student who needs more support with with their social emotional well-being or with academic needs. So that is forthcoming as well. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's good as well. Because Dr. Miller, she is the chair of the Academic and Achievement Subcommittee. And so that's right up her alley, right? And so that's good to seek the collaboration there. Are there any other, and please, no pressure. I just wanted to make sure that we had this time to kind of, discuss what's happening or what you may want to share that's going on in your district. Ms. Smith, and again, I don't have my glasses on, so I am doing my best. So if I miss anyone, please help me.
So I don't have an update item, and I could yield the floor if I need to, but I wanted to kind of circle back on what Dr. Adon was just speaking on. In the last board meeting, there was a parent who presented testimony and made a request for more security to be in the schools. And I think what I heard from Superintendent House was that there was going to be a revisit to the student code of conduct. And as a parent, I'm gonna just tell you, I had a concern hearing that. I personally feel that it would be best to see how we could get more resources on the mental health side of things versus just throwing more people who just want to regulate and see where someone has made a violation with something versus trying to really help the students. So I'm really happy to hear what Dr. Adon was just speaking on, and then just state in open forum as a parent, it was concerning to hear having a revisit to the student code of conduct versus finding other avenues to try to address the concerns that we may have.
Thank you. Mr. Carter Ross.
I just wanted to mention in the District 3 area, we had last month, actually the same time as this group was meeting, a session sponsored by Strong Schools Maryland and local parents in Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, and other parts of the district, trying to help inform people about what's going on at the legislature and the need to advocate for full funding of the blueprint. You've got Tim Meyer from Mount Rainier. He was continuing advocacy on safe passages programs. And Pete Daniels in Hyattsville was leading a lot of the talk on PGCPS blueprint. And Ms. Boozler-Strother, correct me if I'm wrong, we had, who else was speaking there?
We had Dr. Alvin Thornton, our former
That's
chair
it.
of the board, was
Yeah.
a special guest and really gave a great context to PGCPS and lack of equitable funding for decades from the state. And Dr. Kenneth Harris came up from District 7 and joined us in District 3. So that was nice. Yep.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of attention trying to focus on making sure as the legislative session wraps up now, on trying to continue to make sure that our funding streams for Blueprint for PGCPS in particular do get that full funding that's needed from the state.
Thank you so much. And so I am excited to, not that I'm surprised, but very excited about the work that we are continuing to do in partnering with our board members and community members to really, what it does for me is it just shows solidarity that we are really working as a collective to support the work that's happening. I do believe in Mr. Briggs and Ms. Boozler-Strother, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that there was an amendment that was proposed by the board surrounding an increase in funding around mental health services for the school system. And so, the board members are very aware of the importance of making sure that we can cover as many gaps as possible, right? With the limited amount of money, that's why we have to continue to put our resources behind, pushing for the full funding of the Blueprint dollars. But the board is making sure that they, again, are listening to the constituents and what we need. And I will also say that if you, the student code of conduct definitely does need to be revisited. In there, from my own opinion, this is just my opinion, there are some revisions that need to be made that address how behavior is dealt with, but also making sure that we keep in mind, the support that the teachers need in being able to address various behaviors, right? But so the mental health piece, I do know that it was addressed as it relates to a budget amendment. And so, as I said, Mr. Briggs and Ms. Boozler-Strother, if that is not correct, but I have so many meetings in my head And there were so many amendments that I was, hearing and seeing. So I do remember that was something. Yeah. Ms.
You
Booth.
want me, you
Yeah.
want me to jump in? Because
Yes.
this is a very important segue that you've just
Yeah.
given me as a board member.
Yeah.
So where we are in the budget cycle, the board did have some very community responsive amendments. And we then Superintendent House incorporated those. He sent that budget request to the county executive. She sent her budget to the county council on her deadline. That budget request is $32 million less than we asked for. And that raises the question of reconciliation. So at this point in time, the next step is county council advocacy. And those dates are April 29th and May 7th at 6 p.m. The signups aren't ready yet, but this is the opportunity for PGCPS parents to demonstrate that parents are one of the largest groups in this county. You combine it with the students and our employees, we are nearly half the population enters our school buildings on a daily basis when we're in session, that we should be representative when we show up for budget hearings, that those voices need to be in the room. And those are the two dates. And it is time for a very vocal, but full budget, recognizing that the full budget request is not presented to this county council. So I know that our parent advocates who are very skilled at this work, we had Tim Meyer was mentioned earlier, certainly will be an organizer around this, that this does come out of, organized PTO leadership as well as other parent advocates. So thank you for that segue, because those are the two very big dates around this budget. The board, very responsive to community priorities. And we had input and we reflected that through the superintendent by giving priorities to superintendent way ahead of time. The big priorities, like now we're seeing around transportation, climate change action plan, mental health, all of that. But then there's more specifics, like you mentioned, we see more gaps in mental health services needed. And one of my colleagues brought forward like a great proposal to grow one of the programs more quickly. So those are the kind of examples of how we did the budget process this year.
I'm sorry. And that, thank you for that. And what I would, just encourage us all to do is, collaborate with your district members and have a conversation on how to connect and just really encourage the parent groups, the community groups, because I want to be clear, this PCAC is parent and community members. It's this partnership, right? And so how do we make sure that we have the full funding that we need to provide the services? Because $32 million is a big gap, right? That's a lot of money, that will impact various things. So the dates again for the county council hearing, April 29th, which is a Monday, and May the 7th, which is a Tuesday. And so, we will definitely stay abreast. And I know Ms. Lundy, who was not able to be here, she will be one to make sure that we have the information that we need in a timely fashion and help anyone who needs help, getting your speech together about how we need to make sure that we have the entire budget that was presented to the council fully funded for the 24-25 school year. Correct? Yes. So any other questions, comments? And thank you, Ms. Boozer Struthers, for that. We really appreciate that. And I did not misspeak. I did remember those amendments that came through. So, that's all we have at this time. I don't see any other hands. No other hands for district and community updates. At this time, we're moving into item 2, discussion action items. The biggest action item I have is to get with the policy subcommittee, the 2 other members, really 3, that's also you, Robin, and just provide, you know, you already have access to the current bylaws that we have, and we just need to make some changes. I was hoping that we had policy 1500, approved by now, but, you know, we can still make our revisions and update based on the suggestions that we have requested to go in policy 1500, as well as any community input that has been on that. And we do need to begin to work on, I will also send the last report that we send out. We will be working on the final report for this school year. And Ms. Walker is not here. I will follow up with Ms. Walker because she had, we talked about a couple of different ideas that are a little different from just providing a recommendation report, but really maybe just a full picture of what we've done over the past 2 years, as well as some revisions, not revisions, but updates if you have them. Ms. Welsh, or recommendations, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I did want to let you know that policy 1500 was first reader of this past board meeting on March 21st. So at the April 25th meeting, it will be second reader. Hopefully it'll be approved and then enacted, and it'll have gone through the process then.
Okay. Then we're on target. That's good news. And so I also want to thank everyone for the input, and I'm hopeful that we have a policy that, you know, highlights, you know, what we are hoping to be a good governing document for the PCAC going forward. And so if there are no other discussion items, at this time, we're going to move into, well, I had to follow up with the end of the year report. And next steps is us to just conclude this meeting for tonight. Again, it's always great to engage with you all. And yeah, I have nothing else. And if no one has nothing else, I need a motion from the floor to adjourn this meeting at 8:13 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.